Can't stand living with my boyfriend's mother. I never imagined that moving in with my boyfriend Jake would mean moving into his mother's house. When he suggested it, it seemed practical. Rent-free living while we saved for our own place? Why not? But what sounded like a smart decision quickly turned into a nightmare. From the moment I walked through her floral-scented front door, Jake's mother, Diane, was intense. She greeted me with a warm smile and an overwhelming hug, but it didn't take long to realize that beneath her cheery exterior lay a controlling perfectionist who was firmly attached to her son. The first red flag appeared on day 2. Diane barged into our room at 7 a.m. without knocking, clutching a basket of laundry. "I'm just grabbing Jake's things," she chirped. "Jake's things?" I asked, clutching the blanket to my chest. "Oh, I've always done his laundry. He'd ruin it otherwise," she said with a laugh, ruffling his hair like he was still 12. Jake chuckled, clearly unfazed. I tried to brush it off, but it only got worse. Diane had an opinion on everything: how I folded towels, how I seasoned food, even how I spoke to Jake. "Jake likes his eggs runnier," she said one morning, taking the spatula from my hand mid-flip. "I think he's fine with—" I began, but she cut me off. "Trust me, I know what he likes." Her meddling seeped into every corner of our lives. If Jake and I had a disagreement, Diane was suddenly the third party. "Sweetheart," she said one night after overhearing a spat about grocery shopping, "you should really let Jake pick. He's so good at these things." I bit my tongue, but inside I was seething. This wasn't just her home, it was her kingdom, and Jake was her prince. Jake, bless his oblivious heart, thought everything was fine. "Mom's just trying to help," he'd say when I complained. "But Jake," I argued, "she doesn't give us any space." "She means well," he'd shrug, returning to his video game. One evening, Diane crossed a line that I couldn't ignore. I'd bought a journal to vent my frustrations, pouring out my feelings in messy, hurried scribbles. I left it under my pillow, thinking it was safe. But when I returned from work, Diane was sitting at the kitchen table, journal in hand. "You've been writing some interesting things," she said, her tone icy. My stomach dropped. "That's private," I snapped, snatching it from her hands. "This is my house," she replied, "and if you have such a problem living here, maybe you should leave." I wanted to yell, to scream, but instead I stormed out. That night, I told Jake it was me or his mother. "She's my mom," he said, looking torn. "And I'm your girlfriend," I countered. "If you can't set boundaries, I can't stay here." To my surprise, Jake didn't hesitate. He told Diane we were leaving. She was furious, of course, but for the first time, Jake stood his ground. Moving out wasn't easy. We scrambled to find an affordable apartment and adjusted to living on our own. But every time I come home to a Diane-free space, I'm reminded that it was worth it. Sometimes love isn't just about who you're with, but about ensuring your relationship isn't overshadowed by anyone else, especially a meddling mother-in-law.